Welcome back to Oceans in Action. I'm your host, Scarlett. We are 3 episodes deep into our exploration of Chiloé Island, Chile. So far, we've covered the misty peaks in the damp, temperate climate, but today we're getting our feet wet.
And it's not just wet, cold. The Humboldt Current brings that nutrient-rich Antarctic water right to our doorstep.
Exactly. Chiloé is an island of contrasts. You have these ancient, mossy forests on one side and industrial-scale salmon farms on the other. Today we're looking at how those two worlds collide. We'll talk biodiversity, the massive fishing economy, and the plastic problem that's currently washing up on these shores.
Don't forget about the smell of Quellón, Scarlett. You can't talk about the economy without talking about the docks.
We'll get there, Ethan, but first let's look at the natural Chiloé, the version the tourism board wants the world to see. Krithik, as our resident ecologist, you've been looking at the Tictoc area and the surrounding fjords. What makes the aquatic biome here so special for an AP environmental student to study?
It's a textbook example of an intertidal zone. For those listening at home, this is the area between high and low tide. The abiotic factors here are brutal. The organisms have to deal with high salinity, varying temperatures, and the physical force of waves crashing into the rocky shorelines.
And don't forget the oxygen levels. When the tide goes out, these creatures are basically holding their breath.
Exactly. But the biotic factors, the living stuff, have adapted beautifully. We're seeing massive beds of mussels and clams that act as filter feeders, cleaning the water. Further out, in the deeper channels, we have Peale's dolphins. They rely on the schools of fish that hide in the kelp forests.
I think it's important to mention the edge effect here. Where the native forests meet the beaches, you get land animals like the American mink hunting in the tide pools. It's a perfectly linked food web, or at least it was, until the landscape started changing.
How much change are we talking about, Sahaj?
Significant. While the remote islands are still pristine, the main island has been heavily modified for agriculture. We've traded native biodiversity for potato fields and cattle grazing, which changes the runoff entering the ocean.
That runoff flows right into the areas where the locals make their living. Ethan, you've been spending time in the fishing communities. What's the vibe in a place like Quellón?
It's high energy and high stress. Chilo is essentially the seafood basket of Chile. In towns like Quellón, the economy is 100% tied to the water. You've got the artisanal fishermen, the guys who've been diving for sea urchins and gathering shellfish for generations. To them, the ocean is a cultural heritage.
But that's not the whole story, is it?
Not even close. The big brother here is aquaculture. If you fly over the inland sea, you see hundreds of silver circles in the water. Those are salmon pens. Chile is one of the world's top salmon producers, and Chilo is the heart of it. It's a massive source of income. It builds the schools and the roads, but it creates a massive spatial conflict.
Spatial conflict is a polite way of saying the salmon farms are taking over the traditional fishing grounds of the locals.
Exactly. The locals are finding it harder to navigate their traditional routes, and the open access nature of the ocean is being fenced off by corporations.
Guys, this is really bad. My phone is already at 1%.
1%? That's basically zero.
Wait, if your phone dies, who's controlling the GPS?
It's on my phone.
We're gonna have to live here now.
I don't even like hiking. Why are we even here?
Or you could use the Trail Charge Turbo Pack. Solar powered, super fast charging, strong enough to survive dramatic overreactions.
Wait, it's charging?
The map's back. Civilization saved.
I take back everything I said about hiking.
The Trail Charge Turbo Pack, because 1% is a personality trait, not a death sentence.
That leads us perfectly into the tough conversation. Reese, you've been documenting the pollution and infrastructure side of things. It's not all postcards and dolphins, is it?
Honestly, it's heartbreaking in some spots. We've seen beaches that look like a graveyard for the fishing industry. I'm talking about tangled plastic nets, styrofoam buoys, and chemical containers from the salmon farms.
And from an ape's perspective, we have to talk about eutrophication.
Right. When you have millions of salmon in a small area, their waste and the uneaten food sink to the bottom. That adds a massive amount of nitrogen and phosphorus to the water. This can lead to algal blooms that suck the oxygen out of the water, killing the very shellfish that the local artisanal fishermen rely on.
The towns aren't helping. In Quellón, we've seen open sewage lines flowing into the harbor. The infrastructure just wasn't built for this many people and this many industry. The waterfront are often dirty, and the contrast between a polluted harbor and a pristine remote island is jarring.
So, if we're the tourism board, how do we fix this? We can't just hide the trash behind a filter.
We have to promote sustainable aquaculture. There are ways to farm salmon that involve closed-loop systems or lower densities, and we need to support the conservation land protected by people like Douglas Tompkins. Those areas act as biological reservoirs that can help restock the rest of the island's waters.
We also need better waste management in the fishing towns. If we can turn that plastic trash into building materials or new nets, we solve two problems at once.
It sounds like Chile's greatest strength, its ocean, is also its biggest struggle. It's a delicate balance between feeding the world and destroying a home of the Peale's dolphin.
It's a work in progress, but the culture here is resilient. They lived off this water for centuries. They aren't going to let go without a fight.
Well said, Ethan. That's our time for today. We've seen the beauty of the intertidal zone and the grit of the fishing docks. Join us next week for episode 4, where we look at the specific threats of climate change and ocean acidification on Chiloé. I'm Scarlett, and this has been Oceans in Action. Bye.
Bye.
Bye!